Welcome to the Middle Ground. I am Ohio Divided, joined by Storm and Norman coming back with another show. We got an Ohio-focused show tonight, talking a lot about college football starting this week. Going to get into the Week 0 games. Ohio State named a quarterback starter for Week 1 against Texas. Julian Sayin is the guy for the Buckeyes. We're going to get into what he looks like over the course of the next 2 years and what we think the offense could look like, not into this year, but upcoming against Texas. The Browns, on the other hand, also named Joe Flacco the quarterback for their squad. So get into the Browns and see how their kind of outlook is looking. And then the Reds, the three guys that they picked up and we graded a couple weeks ago, are absolutely red hot. I think my 5.33 score out of 10 is more like a 9 at this point. But we're going to get into a lot more things when it goes to the Reds. Other than that, Norm, how we doing? Welcome back.
I'm doing great. Love the invite. Ready to talk some ball.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How's your week going? Having a good week? Little one Stan being good to you?
He's doing all right. Puking every once in a while, but that's normal.
Puking on you at all?
That's how it goes.
Hey, you'll have that. You'll have that. We've all puked on ourselves once or twice in our time. All right.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess you could say that.
Yeah, we've all been there. So let's get into some notable headlines, just some topics that are flowing around the sports world today. Indiana coming out with their non-conference schedule. The old Curt Cignetti. He don't just beat top-ranked teams. He beats the shit out of them. That dude goes and runs his mouth like he is fucking Nick Saban himself. And then you look at the non-conference games that they have scheduled over the course of the next 5 years. Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State, Howard, Colorado State, Western Kentucky, Kennesaw State, Indiana State, UMass, Austin Peay, Miami of Ohio, Eastern Michigan, Ball State, Eastern Illinois, and then Western Kentucky again. How about that for Mr. Top 10?
Yeah, I mean, that 2026 schedule is going to be brutal. They play 2 FBS schools there.
But I kind of understand, like, his position on this. Like, Indiana fucking sucks. They have sucked forever. And if you're going to build up that program and basically try to level them up, I don't think that if you're going out and scheduling a Power 4, Power 5, whatever we call it nowadays, if you go out and schedule a Power 4 school in today's age, or at least for them, I don't think that that's a recipe for success for Indiana. But, I mean, God's sake, I kind of understand, like, your first couple years in there where you schedule maybe some weaker opponents. But this is like 5 years of just playing absolute dog shit where you're probably going to go 15-0 in every single one of these games. It's a laughing stock. I don't know. I just find it a little funny with just how arrogant he is and just how much confidence he tries to act like he has. And I don't know. The dude definitely likes a microphone in front of his face. He likes to create some buzz around himself, around his team, and that kind of thing. I think it's cool what he's done. It is cool what he did last year. I mean, you got to give him credit. You have Indiana, dog shit for years. Kind of leveled him up a little bit last year. But this is kind of some baby back bitch type shit.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's any other school doing this, we're not even talking about it. But I think the fact that Cignetti's talked his game and then, they come out, and not only do they have this as their schedule, they've canceled with some ACC schools.
Virginia, right?
Some SEC schools. Yep, Virginia.
Virginia, yep.
I think Virginia was that this year or next year? Either way, canceling on them, which, I mean, like I said, if it's anyone else, we're probably not talking about this, but just the fact that it's Cignetti, and how he's talked about himself, not even really Indiana. It's just funny that it looks like this big of a backtrack on, who we're going to play. But like you said, I mean, I understand it because like the Big Ten, you have that extra conference game. So you're playing 9 conference games. So I understand that just having 3 wins, get that on the books, kind of get you ready for the conference play. But it is funny with with the whole Cignetti situation.
I mean, like I said, I get it. Scheduling these weak-ass opponents when you're kind of historically at a dog shit program. but like after you're there for a couple years, I mean, I don't see an issue with scheduling like a Virginia type caliber Power 5, Power 4, Power 5 school. I mean, it's still at least a little bit more of a respectable opponent. I mean, it's more in line with who you are as a program, the type of team that you probably are. I don't know. I mean, you're just going to lose a lot of respect, and eventually, as they get into like further into deciding like these 12 teams in the college football playoff, like they got to find a way to reward the teams that are playing some tougher opponents early in the years, and not reward like what Indiana is doing and what they did last year, where they're just scheduling these shitty opponents, and then they end up 10-2 or whatever, 11-1, whatever it was they were last year, and then they're getting in over schools who played tougher opponents. I'm not making an argument for like South Carolina or Alabama last year. Like they had their losses, they had their bad losses, they did not deserve to get in. But if you're sitting there like a 9-3, 10-2 school who lost to two legit Power 4 schools, I think that has to weigh a lot heavier than an Indiana who's scheduling like this type of stuff.
Definitely, and especially when it's coming from non-conference, because that's someone you're scheduling intentionally. Like conference is conference, you can't really control that. That's just who you're going to play. But I think it just shows that there needs to be more respect for non-conference games. And I think the good thing is a lot of the bigger schools are more willing to schedule these games because of the playoff, because they're like, well, if we lose that non-conference game, not going to ruin our season. We could, and if we win that game, it's going to set us up, as we get to the playoff. It's like, well, this team beat, the highly ranked non-conference team early in the season. Especially, I think just because maybe it's probably the Ohio State bias, but especially teams doing home and homes, not just like the neutral site thing, which is, I mean, it's a non-conference game against a good opponent as well. But I mean, I think I hold the home and home special just because I like going to another team to go against, that atmosphere. So that's, we'll talk about Texas and Ohio State in the future, but I love those type of games where it's on campus. We're not going to, some dome somewhere to go play this game. We're playing it in the shoe. Or next year when we're going down to Austin. Like I love, when those games are on the schedule.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what makes college football, right? I mean, a big part of college football is just the hard-ass atmospheres that a lot of these teams have to go in and play against. Obviously, Ohio State, last year, their non-conference games were a joke, but they obviously had a break there where they played Notre Dame for a couple years. I mean, they've had big opponents in the first 3 games in the past. So 1 year is not anything to really complain about. As you said, they have a home and home against Texas. And then I think here into the future, don't they have some home and homes with like Georgia or Bama? I could be wrong on that, but I know that they have other high-level Power 4 schools that are on the schedule, or at least they have planned to play in the coming years. But I'm right there with you. Like, do the home and home. Get rid of the site games where you're at a dome where you're not really playing on anybody's home turf, because that is part of the battle. Like Texas coming into the shoe next week, if they come in and get a win, like that is going to go a long ways for them in their postseason hopes. I mean, you think with them being ranked number 1, they're probably going to be there in the end anyways, but still, like that's a huge resume builder for a team if they can go into a hostile environment and come away with a win.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, how many losses do we think Texas would have to have in conference to not make the playoff if they win at Ohio State? Would it have to be
3, maybe?
Like I think 3, they may still have a decent chance.
Yeah, they might still get a chance to get in.
Yeah, obviously depends on how everything else shakes out and who they would lose to in the conference. But let's say they lose to the top 3 teams in the SEC conference, they beat Ohio State on the road. Like they're probably going to get in over, a team that didn't, have a high stakes win like that. So I think at the end of the day, I think it makes a lot of sense for these higher teams, because it basically sets you up to be like, hey, we're going to be there if we take care of, not even take care of business. If we just, if we continue to push forward and not, really screw it up on ourselves, we're going to be there playing a game like this. And I think it sets teams up too. It's like, you're playing a tough battle right away. I think those teams are going to be more battle tested as the years go on, or as the year goes on, I should say. Like they're going to be more ready for, that first conference game or, or that first road, like hostile environment like Texas will. So I think it makes a lot of sense, but kind of going back to Indiana, I get it from their perspective.
Yeah. I don't know. We don't have this in the notes here, but like I saw the SEC today actually came out and they're looking at potentially going to 9 teams. I know that's always been a knock on the SEC is that they only play 8 conference games. So I think that's a way that they're going to try to level the playing field a little bit and help kind of some of their teams that are on the fringe there. I mean, they're not the only ones. The Big Ten, ACC, Pac-12 when they were a thing, Big 12. They've all had teams on the outside looking in, but if you can kind of bolster your schedule a little bit, get another quality win, that's only going to set up some of the teams in your conference to be positioned to make the playoff in the end.
Yeah, for sure.
In other news, CJ Carr named quarterback 1 for Notre Dame. Obviously, Notre Dame in the same Midwest region as like Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, one of the bigger schools in the area. I actually DM'd Brian Driscoll on Twitter about this because he had said something about how he was surprised that CJ Carr was going to be the guy. So I DM'd him and I was like, from my perspective, like Carr was a highly ranked recruit, like out of Michigan's backyard that Notre Dame basically went in and took. Lloyd Carr's grandson. Never in a million years did you think Notre Dame would go in and take that from Michigan. But I thought he was like a shoe-in to be the guy, basically from day one. But Brian Driscoll, I mean, I don't know if he's like a beat writer. I don't think he's a reporter, but he covers Notre Dame a lot. But he was saying he thought it was going to be Minchie, and basically everything that was telling him internally that Minchie was going to be the guy. And him and I kind of talked a little bit about it, and basically I said, well, I just feel like Carr is more of like there's a higher ceiling with Carr. Like Minchie might be better today, but if you can get Carr to kind of elevate his game week to week, get him a little bit more used to playing in the system, get him more comfortable playing, I think in the end you're probably going to have a higher ceiling with Carr than Minchie, just based off how they were recruited, what they were ranked at coming out of high school, getting into college.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a similar theme when we talk about Sayin, because like even though it's probably a little bit different, I would say he's probably better than what Keenholz is at this point too. But I just think the ceiling of the guy is going to have, the end where you're trying to go is going to be more so what you're looking at with your quarterback versus like who's better week 1, because it's 12-week season. A lot of these guys don't really have experience in games, so the only way you're going to get them experience is by playing them. So I think that's going to be the big thing for a lot of those type of guys, and we'll see that across college football. Just the guys that are going to start early on are probably going to be the ceiling guys, and if they don't pan out quick, that's when the maybe the higher floor guys come in. But you obviously want to give the guy a shot who you think can take you the furthest.
Yeah. It's kind of weird. I've been seeing some stuff on the timeline. There's a lot of people like nationally kind of shitting on Notre Dame a little bit. I don't really get it, to be honest. Like they have basically that whole defense is back. Like I don't know the exact number, but I would say they probably have 8 to 9 guys that played significant snaps last year that are back. Obviously, I think Carr has a chance to upgrade their passing game a lot. Riley Leonard was a really good leader, really good in the run game, but he was average at best throwing the football. But I think that's just going to open up their offense even more, open up more opportunities for Jeremiah Love. Obviously, they have a couple receivers back that had decent seasons last year. I think that Grotehouse had a pretty good national championship game against Ohio State. So I don't really understand the hate around Notre Dame. I actually have a $50 future placed on them that I placed back in March whenever I was extremely drunk. And I have, since I've sobered up, I have decided to let that ride. So if Notre Dame fucks around and wins it, I'll be all right with it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they bring a lot back. And then, we talked about my love of the star player. And I mean, Jeremiah Love, he's one of those guys. Like he's one of the top Heisman, odds guys at this point. He's been he's proven he's a stud, and I don't see that changing. So, I mean, whenever you have a star player and you have a lot of guys coming back, that's kind of the formula for this team's going to have a pretty good shot.
Yeah, and I think Carr can ultimately elevate their offense too, just like I said, just in the passing game. I think Notre Dame was not easy to prepare for, but they were one-dimensional in a way last year, and this just adds a whole nother dimension to their offense. And Jeremiah Love, the dude's a dog. I see Meadow in here said Jeremiah Love for Heisman. Definitely is going to be in the conversation for it. But he is on, not Jeremiah Smith level, but he's like that type of game changer type of player. Like he's a guy that can take a run 70 yards. You toss it to him in the backfield, he could take it 70 yards. So definitely a game changer. I'd say a top 5 player in all of college football.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the only reason he isn't on Jeremiah Smith's level is because I'm not sure anyone is. Like he's in the tier below where there's studs that can carry their teams just as well. And I mean, in college football, you could argue that, running backs, sometimes hold a greater weight just because it's easier to get them the ball. So, I mean, he's a huge game changer. I'm really interested to see, how he plays this year. But I mean, I anticipate Notre Dame to be back in the playoff again this year.
Yeah, I think if they can get through Miami week 1, they have a pretty good shot at probably going undefeated if they don't stumble and lose like Northern Illinois or something again. But I agree. I think they're going to be right there. They're definitely going to be a shoe-in for the playoff. And then if they come away with a week 1 win, I mean, that's about guaranteed. Just kind of like last year when they went and beat Texas A&M that first week. From there on out, it was all right, Notre Dame's probably going to get in. Obviously, they stumbled a little bit, but after that Northern Illinois game, they basically rolled from there on out.
Yeah, and I mean, they knew they had to run the table, and they did. And that's how you get yourself into the playoff. That's the luxury of the playoff. You can have a loss like that, but if you take care of business, you're still going to find a way to get in because teams are going to lose because especially in the conferences, that's, how Notre Dame can kind of get away with it a little bit with being independent, but you can lose, like we were talking about Ole Miss or some of those teams. If Ole Miss just has one of those bad losses, they're in. The fact they had 2 is why they didn't make it. So they didn't take care of business, but the Florida Kentucky combo was what took them out. Not if they just lost one of those games.
Yeah. Look out for Notre Dame. I think they're definitely going to be back, and I think they could be a better team than what they even were last year. And they went to the national championship. I absolutely love Marcus Freeman as a head coach. I think he's one of the better coaches that are in the game, and he's just going to continue to climb that ladder the more he coaches and gets into it. Outside of that, Norm, did you have any other headlines or anything that you saw over the course of the last week that you wanted to talk about?
No, I think that covers it.
All right, before we move on, we want to give a shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Draft Top, the ultimate tool for beer lovers. If you're tired of drinking out of cans and want to actually taste your drink the way it was meant to be enjoyed, Draft Top is your answer. It's a bar tool that removes the top of your can, turning it into a smooth open cup. That means better aroma, better flavor, and no more drinking through that tiny opening. Perfect for tailgates, watch parties, or just cracking open a cold one while you watch the Bengals defense suck ass. Go to drafttop.com and use promo code DIVIDED at checkout and get 10% off your order. That is drafttop.com. Cut the top off and enjoy the drop. All right, so we're going to transition here into the Cincinnati Reds. Reds, half game back of the wild card. Thankfully, the Mets just continue to lose. The Reds just continue to not get swept, win series here and there, kind of just staying right there in the mix. You would like them to kind of take that step. I feel like they've had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to kind of just take that next step and ultimately get to the point where they're in the playoffs. But, I mean, they're probably, 35 games left in the season. You're a half game out. I mean, it's anybody's spot at this point. And with the way that the Mets are trending right now, and don't get me wrong, the shit that watching Frank the Tank through this whole thing is going to be absolute comedy. Just seeing his reactions. Like, I saw his video before this, right before I got on, and he was like a 2-minute video. And I was just trying to count the amount of times he said fuck in it. And I think I counted 53, but I feel like I definitely missed like 5 or 6 of them within there. It was like every other word he was just screaming fuck.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so funny because like so many people are like, it's okay, man. Like, I saw people replying to his tweet. He was talking shit about Manea, and it was like 2-0 in the fourth, and they're like, dude, like, what are you bitching about? It's 2-0. And then all of a sudden, Manea allows like, 4 runs in 2 innings, and then they're down and they end up losing. So it's like, hey, maybe Frank's got a point.
Well, I mean, he's definitely doing this for engagement and clicks too, but it's he genuinely those are his emotions though. Like, he genuinely fucking is passionate and cares as much as what he does. But I'm here for it. I want to watch his reactions every time that they lose. He had a live on the other night when he was just watching them. Dude, like, he's insane. The other team will literally get a single, and he is crashing the fuck out. Like, starts going nuts. It's like single, 2 outs, and he just starts, this fucking team, God fucking damn it, motherfucking fucker. Oh, it's so fucking funny.
Yeah, I mean, and some interesting things as I'm like looking at the standings. Like, the Mets, their away record is 26-36. Like, they're 10 games below on the road.
Wow.
They have one of the best home records in baseball, but it's crazy that they're 26-36 on the road. And in the future, I know that the Reds have a weekend series with them in Great American Ballpark.
That'll be big.
So I would love the Reds to take advantage of that then. But that's a little bit ahead of us now. Talking about the recent series, like, that Brewers one was rough, man. I was glad that we pulled a Brewers on the Brewers that game. With the 2-run in the top of the ninth and then 2 runs in the bottom to win it. Great to hold off the sweep, but I mean, I know I was talking to you Friday night, up 8-1, feeling good, and then 2 innings later, we're tied, and the game's back on. And it's like, what the fuck just happened? And, I mean, I know that's kind of the Brewers with how hot they've been, but it was great to see them come back and win the series against the Angels. It was definitely a letdown spot. It's like you just got, kind of beaten down by the Brewers, blowing 2 saves in 2 days, but having the offense pick you up on one occasion. But it just kind of speaks to the Reds are so close, but like you said, they haven't taken the step to get them over the hump. Hopefully over the course of this next month that they can do that and they keep continually string together series wins. But yeah, I mean, it seems it's what we talk about the Reds all the time. When something's working, the other thing's not, whether it's offense or defense or pitching or whatever it is. And they just need to put it together. I mean, like you said, there's only 34 games left. There's not a lot of time to be fucking around. So got to keep winning series and got to keep stacking them up.
Yeah. The Reds are very equivalent to most people's golf games where it's like this and this is working, but that's not working, and it's really fucking me right now.
Right, because, I mean, it's like anything else. You need them all to, ultimately execute and win. So it's like, well, pitching's doing great, but we got 2 errors, that led to 3 runs. And, and then let's say the hitting's off that day. So then it's like, well, we got 1, but we don't got the other 2. Or we're hitting, but we can't pitch or field. And yeah, I mean, it is what it is at this point. It seems like I think winning that 3rd game was huge for just the confidence going forward of being like, all right, we get swept against the Brewers. I feel like they're coming away with a different feeling. Going to LA and doing the West Coast trip because, you get swept at home to the Brewers in a huge weekend series, and then you got to go out west. Like that's not an easy transition. So I think that win, kind of set them up to do what they did against the Angels and take the series. But that's just the beginning. We got Diamondbacks and Dodgers to go. So, obviously I think Diamondbacks got to win that series, obviously. And then Dodgers, you'd like to, but got to get one.
Yeah. If you get two, you are extremely happy about that. If you just get one and then take 2 or 3 against the D-backs, I think you're pretty happy with that road trip out west. Another part that you brought up, Norm, and I don't know if it was last week or the couple episodes before that we did, you basically said you're going to start observing like their last 10 record. Like instead of being like 5-5, 6-4, you want to see them be more like 7-3, 8-2. And it just kind of seems like they float right around that 5-5, 6-4. I think they're 6-4 right now in their last 10. So it just goes back to show like they're just right there to take that step. I mean, they're still only a half game out, so a lot of ball left to be played, a lot of big series coming up. I know that the Mets go and play the Braves this weekend, and then they go and play the Phillies. So, I mean, I assume those are probably both 3-game series. So if they can only win 2 or 3 of those, I mean, you could be in a position where after this road trip, you might be finding yourself in the playoff if you go and play some good ball. And overall, I just feel like this Reds team, at least offensively, like the 3 guys that they've gotten, especially Andujar, has been just absolutely roping the ball. We're going to get into a little bit later. Hayes has been hitting the shit out of the ball. But the 3 additions they've added have really elevated the team, and that's exactly what they needed to do. I know that the players were kind of screaming that they wanted some more help, some more support. Nick Kroll in the front office went out and got it for him, and I like the eye test looks better, at least from my perspective, whenever you watch them on a night-to-night basis.
Yeah, and I think the thing, too, is like I've been seeing just some discourse on Twitter about, the bullpen looks taxed and, some things like that. And I think it just kind of circles back to Lodolo injury. It's like, yeah, obviously it's not ideal. A lot of these guys are throwing a lot of innings, but, with Martinez having to go back to the rotation, it doesn't make it ideal, obviously. And it's where I understand where the people were like, why didn't we get more bullpen arms or why didn't we get another one? I understand that completely. But I think they're kind of at a place where I think they didn't really know who they wanted to move where. Because, Fraley was just the guy chosen to get designated for assignment. I get it. Fraley's had some big hits and some big games this season, but so has Benson. And I think the issue really comes down to they weren't going to send down, like an Espinal for assignment or whatever, just because, it's not the same position. Then you're starting to get weak in the infield. There's more infield positions. So, a lot of that's making sense. So I think as the, roster expands, as, we get further in the season, they can be a little bit more flexible with that. But some of the guys that, they brought up haven't exactly panned out as much as we'd like to either. I know Lewis May just got sent back down. He's a guy I think has like insane potential.
He's got really good stuff. He just can't.
Doesn't look like he's quite ready for it. Yeah. It's kind of like the old saying of thrower versus pitcher. And I think he's doing a little bit too much throwing versus pitching right now. And I think guys with stuff sometimes fall into that trap. But he's not an old guy, so I believe in it, going forward. But I'm just not sure about this season. Ideally, he can figure something out by the time we get to the end, and be a contributor by the end of the season. But as it stands now, I'm not really sure that's the case.
Yeah, I'm high on Luis May. I think he'll be fine. Obviously you always are hesitant for a guy who throws a lot of balls and walks a lot of guys. Like that's not necessarily something that you can teach. The only thing that you can really teach is exactly what you said. Like, don't be a thrower, be a pitcher, learn how to pitch, make quality pitches, hit spots, that type of thing. And right now, like you're 100% right. Like he's more so just throwing it out there. And it's been leading to a lot of walks and things like that when he gets into games. But he's young. Hopefully he can kind of hone in his command. But I do agree. I think next year into the years into the future, I think he'd be perfect kind of in that setup type role. come into the 8th inning that, I mean, if he starts throwing strikes a lot more frequently, I think he could potentially be a closer by the end of it. But obviously you got to throw strikes if you're going to be put in those high leverage spots.
Yeah, I mean, I think he definitely has closer potential, but again, it's like you said. I mean, Pagan, even in the Brewer series, there's a lot of walks happening there, and he's generally not, like crazy out of control. So I mean, anyone walking anyone in the 9th inning is never good, because in baseball you get 3 outs. You can't run from it. There's no time, so you got to get 3 outs. So, and that's not going to be helped by walking guys.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the reason why Tito likes Pagan in that closing role, because he is a guy that has a really low walk rate. So I know Tito's always been pretty vocal that he wants a closer that just goes in and throws strikes, which I'm all for. Like, obviously, you don't want to go into a 1-run, 2-run 9th inning and walk the leadoff hitter. But I don't know. He just doesn't have near the swing and miss type of stuff for that role. But I don't know. This is what we have for now, and we got to just keep rolling with it. The next topic, Noelvi Marte. We had a conversation about Noelvi Marte getting moved up and moving Hayes down. This is a little old news because last night Tito upgraded the lineup and moved Marte into that 2-hole, which I think you definitely got to have him somewhere in the top 4 just with how he's swinging it right now. I mean, he might be the Reds' most talented hitter on the team, and that's even saying more than like Ellie is right now. Obviously, Ellie is by far still probably the best player. He's slumping a little bit lately, but he's been fine. I mean, he's still hitting the ball, still at about a 275, 280 average and whatnot. But I think that they have to get Marte into that top 4 of the lineup, and they have to keep him there. Yes, last night he batted second, and yeah, I think that's a perfect spot for him.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And I'm even we've talked in the past about finding where guys are at and keeping them there just for continuity's sake. But I think that's where Marte should be, because I think how I describe it is he's a more polished hitter. He's probably the most polished hitter on the team. He makes great contact. He's making contact, not a guy that's striking out a lot. And I mean, just a guy who gets on base. And anytime you have that, you want to have that guy ahead of your, who I would still say is the best hitter in Ellie, especially because Ellie has, he's got a lot of pop. So it's like he's going to be finding gaps and doubles. I mean, with their speed, Ellie's shown in the Angels game, sometimes singles do it too. But like I think Marte in front of him is a huge advantage, because he's getting on base a lot, and having him behind Friedel, who also gets on base. So I think that's what the top 3 should be. I think that should be solidified.
Mm-hmm.
And then from 4 on down, we can argue about, or decide on who's hitting where based on who's if it's a lefty righty, that sort of thing. But I think that should just be the top 3. And then we can talk about who's hot for who's 4th and 5th and down the line.
Yep. I totally agree. Having him there, what it does is takes a lot of pressure off of Ellie. I feel like sometimes the Reds' offense has just been so dead that they kind of just pitch around Ellie to basically just get everybody else out. Where if you can kind of have a guy right there, right before Ellie, you have to pitch to him, and then it makes them have to then probably pitch to Ellie a lot more frequently. So I think it just helps everything from top to bottom having Marte in that top 3. So on to Matt McLain, kind of honestly, McLain and Marte, kind of similar if you think about it, where McLain missed last year. Obviously, he's not been right all year. He's struggled mightily at the plate. I swear he's literally guessing on about every single pitch. It looks at times that he's predetermined even before the pitch, he's swinging at it or not. But I hope it's kind of a Noelvi Marte type situation. Like, Marte was awful last year. He was god-awful. He missed half the season for suspension. Came back. I think he was pressing a lot. And I feel like it's probably the same type of thing with Matt McLain. 2 years ago, he was one of the better players, like one of the more guys that the team relied on. And he's kind of dug himself into a really big hole at this point. I I don't know. Do you send him down? Do you get him down there to see some AAA pitching, get some confidence back, let him start barreling some balls up? But on the flip side, like, the dude is really good in the field. So I kind of understand wanting to keep him around because he plays an excellent second base. I don't know. What are your thoughts? What do you think that they should do with McLain?
So I'll start with this. I don't think they can send him down. Like I think he's kind of in a place where he's just kind of got to be up and he's got to work through it. But I think the caveat is at this point he can't be the everyday player. I think he's kind of the guy that gets mixed in. You know, obviously, like you said, you'd love to have his glove in the field. But he's definitely going through a massive slump, like a seasons long slump. And it's also crazy because at the beginning of the season, we were talking about like, how are the Reds going to get runs from anywhere else besides McLain and Ellie? And the thing is McLain fell off a cliff so fast and so hard that, you know, I don't even know where we're at with him at this point, but I don't think it's beneficial to really send him down, because at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know. We see guys get sent down and hit well in AAA all the time. You know, like Reese Hines, you know, Benson. You know, he'd been raking in AAA. So I don't think it's always a direct correlation on a guy hitting well in AAA. So I don't think it's right all the time. I mean, obviously, I think the Reds would have a better grasp on whether McLain would be a guy that would help or not. But I think he seems like the type, like, I feel like he's maybe not necessarily the leader, but a leader in the clubhouse as well. So it's like, I don't necessarily want to send him down and just kind of have him work through it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day in baseball, once you get hot, you know, like once you get in the depths, it's hard to get out. But once you're out, it's, you know, it's hard to cool you down too. I mean, it's such a hot and cold sport that, you know, McLain as fast as anyone could get hot. And we're talking about McLain, you know, helping us bring us to the playoffs or, you know, whatever it is. So I think he's a guy you got to keep up, but I think at this point he just can't be an everyday guy.
Yeah, I do agree with you though. He's a nice guy to have in the clubhouse in terms of just like from a leadership standpoint. I don't know how much of a vocal leader he is, but I think it's pretty obvious. Like the way he goes about his business, he handles everything as a professional. That's good to have a guy like that in the clubhouse, just as an example for everybody else. And I mean, these struggles honestly could be a blessing in disguise for him, where he faces some adversity. A lot of times with anything you do in life, like, you're going to have failure. Like, if you're not failing, then you're going to fail in literally anything and everything, whether it's sports, life, whatever it might be. But it's kind of like how you handle that adversity, where I think it could potentially end up being good for him, where it's like, all right, go into the offseason, let's get back to the basics, what got me here, and then really get primed, go into the offseason healthy, and then get primed to kind of get back to your 2023 form next year.
And he also feels like a guy, too, if you do sneak into the playoffs, it's like, Matt McLain is an 8-hole guy. Like, I know he's not hitting well right now, but
he can get hot.
I mean, you can't just be throwing him fastball down the middle. You know, like he can swing the bat. So it's like, we haven't seen it recently, but we know it's there. So it's like, it's hard to completely ignore.
Yeah. Hopefully he can bounce back. Hopefully if the Reds can kind of make some noise getting to the postseason, I definitely could see him being a guy that steps up in a game down the stretch, playoff game, where it's like, all right, yep, there's a Matt McLain we all know and that we all thought we had. Other than that, the red-hot new guys on the team, Miguel Andujar, Ke'Bryan Hayes, and Zach Littell. I gave this a 5.33 out of 10 at the time of the trade deadline. I think as of now, I would give that a 9. I know you had a 7, Norm. What would you rank them at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say a 9 too. I mean, because the thing is when I was looking at those trades, like, a lot of the reasoning for like having Littell as a 7 or Andujar as a 6 were more about the length of time we were going to have them. But the thing is when they're playing at this level, it doesn't really matter. Like they're producing, and it's a great trade. So, all three. I mean, I was banging the table at the deadline. That I loved the deadline. I like the moves that they made. And I'm glad for my take's sake that they've been proving me right thus far. Obviously, we got more games to go, and that could change fast. But the brightest spot for me has been Ke'Bryan Hayes. I mean, his defense. I'm seeing a highlight almost every single night.
He is as advertised on the defensive side.
Right, man. And the thing is like there's been times where it's like if he doesn't make that play, they're probably scoring, or it's a double play to get out of a tough spot, or it's a play that it's like I don't know how someone makes that play, and if we don't, there's a leadoff single versus one out, no one on. So
yeah, huge.
And the thing is his hitting has been, we even said the last episode we're like we thought he was hitting better than we had thought at the time,
and he's even better now. Like he's from then.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and he's been on fire in comparison to then. But I feel like he just puts really good at bats at the plate, works the count, and just has a good approach. And I mean, for a guy that's batting at the end of the lineup, that's all you can ask.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And now he's starting to find some gaps, hit some doubles, and I saw something. Brian Hayes has as many home runs on the Reds this year as he did with the Pirates the entire time.
I did see that.
I think he has 3 doubles now, and he only had 10 when he was on the Pirates. So, I mean, the guy's been everything we could have asked. Obviously the defense is one thing, but he's batting 267 since he came on the Reds, and I was saying if he's batting 250 with that defense, I'm ecstatic, and he's hitting for some power as well. With his 2 home runs, 4 doubles, and he has a triple. So I mean that's 7 extra base hits in 19 games.
Yeah, really like what I've seen from him. I know whenever the trade happened, we were looking at their StatCast numbers, and he had a 1 out of 100 rating. And you actually made the point where you said, yeah, his hitting statistics or his hitting value isn't necessarily where you would like it to be, obviously being a 1. But you said like his squared up barrel percentage was in the green. It was a high rating. And you said, well, that for me is like he barrels balls up. So if he can just put it together, you could actually have something, which we have seen since he's gotten to Cincinnati. And another note that we have talked about just through like potential Reds trades at the deadline, we got into like Luis Robert whenever we were talking about them potentially trading for him. And it's like some of these guys are just with like really, really bad organizations playing on teams that are completely out of it by the time June even comes around, where you get them into a spot where they actually are playing for a competitive team. They have a lot of guys that are around them. You see a lot of guys kind of elevate their play, and I think that is exactly what Ke'Bryan Hayes is doing on the offensive side of things. And then Miguel Andujar as well. Like, the dude is absolutely mashing the ball. I just like my jaw drops about every time he hit. Like it's just like, oh my God, he roped another ball.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is I feel like there was similar but different issues with them. Andujar just wasn't getting a lot of appearances, like at bats, and I think that was just the Athletics focusing on their young guys. And then Hayes had the opposite issue of like he's playing every day for a team that's awful. So the thing is now you're on a team where as much as we're complaining about, the Reds hitting a lot, like the Reds have a decent rate of getting guys on base. The issues with the Reds are generally bringing the guys in. So it's like you're going to be getting solid pitches when you're having guys on base because they got to get you out. You can't be continually walking guys like we were talking about with bullpens. So, I think Andujar and Hayes have taken advantage of that. And not to overlook Littell. Littell's just been an absolute stud.
Yep.
And I know he's on the hill again tomorrow, and hopefully he continues staying hot.
Yeah, he's exactly who you thought he was going to get, just a guy that you feel really good about every 5 days there in the lineup. But no, a lot of positivity around the Reds. Again, half game back. So we got about a month left of baseball, and it's going to be a lot of fun watching them through the rest of this. And I'm going to be right here for it. We're going to be covering it. So let's transition on to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Obviously, the topic, Julian Sayin named the guy, QB1 for Ohio State. You got the big matchup with Texas, which we'll probably get into a little bit more next week whenever it's the week of the game. But yeah, I mean, Julian Sayin is the guy. I felt like he was going to be the guy day one. As soon as I saw the spring game and just him making the throws that he was making, he's got excellent footwork. He's got he's like a pure thrower of the football, a ton of arm talent. For me, like this, I know Lincoln Kienholz was what they call like the Iron Buckeye, just a guy who grinded, worked his ass off, kind of like a leader that you like to have around the program. But this was always Julian Sayin's job to lose.
Yeah, I think the Lincoln Kienholz, you can compare him to Devin Brown. Like a great
I think he might be better than Devin Brown, though.
What's that?
I think he might be better than Devin Brown, though.
And that could be so. But at the end of the day, it's more of a guy you want in the locker room versus a guy that's, throwing the ball around. Because I just saw Devin Brown didn't win the job at Syracuse. So,
or Cal, you mean?
Or no, Devin Brown's at Cal. I lied.
Yeah, I did see that too. He didn't get the job, which is crazy. But one thing for me is, like, as you were listening to things as this was going on through just the whole quarterback battle, was a lot of like beat reporters and things that were out there were like, this isn't like the McCord and Brown competition where no one ever really felt good about anything up until, I mean, even that whole year, you never really felt great about McCord. But even through like training camp and whatnot, I just think, or fall camp, you just never really felt great about either guy. And the old saying of if you have two, you have none, I think that was very true. And through this quarterback battle, you heard a lot of whispers of this is a lot like the Joe Burrow, Dwayne Haskins type battle, where I'm not sure if Kienholz is like Burrow level. Obviously, he's not. Like, Burrow is definitely better, but maybe at that point they were obviously closer than what Burrow's developed to into today. But I think it was a thing where they actually had two legit guys where if Lincoln had to be the guy, I think that they still felt comfortable putting him out there. And even Ryan Day has said, like, Lincoln's still going to find snaps. He's still going to get opportunities to come in and play. I think he's an athletic kid. Like, you're probably going to see him a lot in the red zone. Watch him run the ball a little bit. Just have, like, another running threat in the red zone. Kind of helps keep the defense a little honest whenever it's an obvious running down. So I think mixing him in the red zone will definitely be good for the offense. But I think, like we said, Julian's a guy. He's always been the guy. He was a top 10 recruit for a reason. And now we get to see the Julian Sayin show for the next 2 years. It's going to be fun, really, really fun seeing him and Jeremiah.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to see it. I mean, I feel like when he transferred, we kind of felt like this day was going to come. Obviously highly recruited, a Nick Saban recruit. Pretty much leaves Bama because Saban, retired. So kind of felt like the writing was on the wall that this was going to happen. But just excited that he followed through and got the job done.
Yeah. And for me, it was always like Nick Saban took this guy, wanted this guy. Ryan Day is not going to have a guy that the best college football coach ever wanted. He's not going to take that guy and put him on the bench. Like, come on.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, there's a reason that there's a reason that Saban, liked this guy, so.
Yeah, and other news, I think for the most part, basically every position is solidified for Ohio State, and which is kind of abnormal at this point in time. Like, I feel like at this point in the training or fall camp, you typically have a few positions that you're kind of still battling out, but right now I think basically 21 of 22 offensive defensive positions are basically filled. And then the last position they're really looking at is that right tackle spot between Ethan Onenwa and then Phillip Daniels. I personally think, just based on things that I've read, I think Onenwa's probably going to be the guy. But I think Phillip Daniels has played well enough to basically make this a competition. Obviously, Austin Seerveld has transitioned into a legit good-ass college football left tackle that I don't know if they really saw that coming, but he developed a lot over the offseason. They moved him out to left tackle, and it was like pretty obvious early on, like, yep, he's the guy at left tackle. But even Ryan Day said, whether it's Onenwall, whether it's Daniels, like, you're going to see both of them. I mean, last year with Ohio State's offensive line, we saw 7-8 guys play by the end of the year. So I think right now you have 7 to 8 guys that you feel pretty good about on the offensive line, where if you do have some injuries happen, you can easily plug one of those guys in and still feel pretty good about the production they're going to put out. So I think the offensive line is going to be a really bright spot for just the team this year. You got a lot of experience on that O-line, and I think it's going to be a unit that they lean on, whether that is the run game or even the pass game. So a lot to be excited about there with that unit.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing too is if you're looking at their old recruiting profiles, both Daniels and Onanawa were both recruited as interior offensive linemen too. So I think it just shows that no matter who wins the battle, the other guy is probably just next man up, depending on, last year we saw multiple injuries across the line. It seems like we're going to be able to have guys that can, swing around and move to different positions if need be. So, I mean, obviously great problems to have when, you have two guys that are legitimate starters, fighting for the battle versus just having a guy that you're trying to, having two guys you're trying to decide who you want, who you would rather have, versus, deciding on who's taking the job,
Yeah, there's a lot to be excited about with everything with Ohio State football, but I think that unit, a lot of experience, like we said, a lot of high expectations for them this year. So definitely a unit they're going to lean on, and I think it's going to be a good year for them. So what do you think that we can expect from the offense in Game 1 with Sayin as the quarterback? I think that there is a sense where you kind of want to protect him in a way, but I also kind of like the approach that Ohio State had in the college football playoff last year, where it was more of a pass first, run later type of offense, where basically they came out with a lot of play action, a lot of quick, easy throws early on to kind of get the defense out of the box, spread everybody out, and then really gash their runs later in the game. I think with Texas having 9 of 11 defensive starters back from last year, you're going to have to get creative. You're going to have to find ways to get the ball on the perimeter, spread things out a little bit, because if you go in just trying to run the ball 30, 40 times, run it every single first down, I don't think that necessarily sets the offense up for success. And especially with a good defense like Texas and a first-game quarterback playing the number 1 team in the country, I don't think you want to live in second and long, third and long. That's just a recipe for disaster. So I think early on first down, they got to be creative, get the ball in the playmaker's hands, whichever way that looks like, sending guys in motion, play action, getting the ball on the edge, things like that, and then really lean on the run game to kind of keep it more 50-50 as you get along further into the game.
Yeah, I thought Day, comparing Stroud's starts with like the Minnesota start was interesting.
Yes.
Because the thing is I think that makes a lot of sense. I feel like they're giving Stroud a lot of easy throws, not just trying to run the ball to keep the ball out of his hands, but mixing it up enough where it's kind of like you said, you want to protect him in a way where you're not putting training wheels on them where you're like, well, we're just going to run the ball to death, but you're not, having a lot of complex reads and things early on, kind of build that confidence up to, put him in a place where he's then willing to make those plays. Because you don't want to have a guy, make some mistakes in the first game and then be scared to, try to make plays as you go along from there. Like,
Yeah, for sure. You definitely want to wean him in a little bit. You get him some confidence, get him some easy throws early. But again, you got to find that happy medium of getting him settled in where it's not so obvious like what you're doing on first down every single time. So another thing to note, like this is Brian Hartline's first game that he'll ever be the OC. So you got a first-time OC with a first-time quarterback. So I get the headlines. I get kind of the hesitation from a lot of Ohio State fans where you have a lot of inexperience both calling the plays and running the offense, but it's still Brian Hartline. It's still Julian Sayin. They're in those spots because they're talented, both from a coaching standpoint and playing standpoint. So they're in those spots for a reason, and they both have sat back. They've developed. So hopefully they can kind of get a good game plan put together and whatnot for Texas. But no, I'm excited to see what the offense looks like and how they'll perform against Texas.
Yeah, it'll be a good barometer test. Obviously, I don't have a feel whether or not where I think, because I think the game is honestly, Ohio State probably has less question marks than Texas does in terms of specific players and different positions. But I think the question marks we have are in positions that quarterback, play calling, running back, some of the more big positions where Texas has some guys returning where they probably have a little bit more confidence and have more experience. So I think it's just going to be an interesting barometer to see, where those young guys and where the new guys are sitting at. And, the number one team in the country right now in Texas.
Yeah, for sure. I think a really big part of this Ohio State team, too, is going to be keeping James Peoples healthy. Like, I think he is a difference maker. I think that he is a guy that you kind of – he's not Travion Henderson, obviously, but he's kind of Travion Henderson-esque where he's a guy that has the speed. He gets in open space. He can make guys miss. He can create explosive plays where if he's out, I don't know if Donaldson is necessarily that type of guy. He's more in between the tackles, kind of a bruiser type running back. But there's been a lot of really good reports or positive reports around Bo Jackson, the freshman, from up around the Cleveland area. I think that we're probably going to see a good dose of him. But I think as important as anything is keeping James Peoples healthy this year, just to add that extra dimension to your offense.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, because at the end of the day, he was the number 3 guy last year, and he's the number 1 guy now. So, just from a depth perspective, it's clear that there's not as much there from a talent perspective as there was last year when you're losing 2 first or 2 second round guys. And I think Donaldson is going to be a solid player as well. But in terms of taking over a workload, I'm not sure, that's what what we'd be looking at as ideal.
Yeah. And on a final note, I know there's been some talks out of the Texas camp. I think they're a little worried about their offensive line. The word out of Texas's camp through fall camp and whatnot is they've replaced some guys on that offensive line, and it sounds like they've had some struggles on there. So I don't know what Matt Patricia's defense is going to look like, but I think it could be a good opportunity to kind of get after Arch Manning a little bit, make him feel uncomfortable, get the crowd noise into it and whatnot, kind of throw some blitzes at him, kind of keep him guessing and whatnot. But yeah, I think it's gonna be a fun matchup in week 1. Other than that, Norm, you got anything else on Ohio State?
No, I think that covers it.
Yeah, like you said, we'll get into more week 1 Texas kind of breakdown, get a little bit further into it just from a game week perspective of things. But it's coming. What are we now? 9 days away. Tomorrow will be 8 days away. So we're in single digits.
Yep,
it's
9
coming.
days away.
Life's about to get a lot better. All right, next we're going to transition into some Browns and some Bengals talk. We'll start with the Cleveland Browns. Joe Flacco named quarterback 1. Is that what you guys were expecting? Is that kind of what the word has been from all the Browns fans?
Yeah, I don't think it was a shock to anybody. I think when they signed him back, from a fan perspective, I think that was the assumption. If Pickett doesn't get hurt, I think there's a higher chance than people around Cleveland would probably be willing to admit of him having a chance to win the job. Because I think the Pickett difference to Flacco is Flacco, he likes to make big plays. He's got a big arm, so he's going to be slinging it. Kenny Pickett, he's a little bit more of a game manager. Not turning the ball over as much, but not really making as many big plays. So I think for a team like the Browns with, having a top 5 defense, having a guy, that doesn't turn the ball over, I can see where, the intrigue comes from a guy like that. But at the end of the day, they brought in Joe Flacco to, bring along these rookies, but also play this season. Like I think that was the plan. I think the trade for Kenny Pickett was an insurance policy on how the draft went. Sanders kind of falls into their laps and they take him. They loved Gabriel, so he's the guy that that they clearly had their eyes set on. So now we go into the season. We're going to go in the season with 4 guys. I think it's going to be the interesting thing will be what happens with Kenny Pickett. I think at this point, I think the Browns are going to bring 4 guys on the 53-man roster, which isn't ideal. There's only 53 spots. You got special teams, backups. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I'd be interested to see how they would utilize the practice squad, but I got a feeling they're not gonna just completely put one of those rookies on there, keep them on the 53. So I think it's pretty interesting to see where they go with the 4, but I think they want to keep everybody. As we look at the preseason, obviously there's a lot of talk about Sanders' first start. He looked really, really good. And he played some ones early on in his start, and he didn't, he wasn't slinging it as well as he was later against the backups, but he showed some promise there. Not really missing, only a couple missed throws, and I didn't think there was really any bad decisions that he had made. Dylan Gabriel, pretty similar. He had one pretty catastrophic mistake where he was kind of rolling out on a rollout to the left, and they were running some crossing patterns. The receivers didn't really get great depth, so that they kind of ran into each other, and he decided to throw, and it ended up being a pick 6. But I think it was one of those things, young quarterback trying to force a throw, but really other than that, Gabriel looked really good too. So, I mean, both guys showed some promise, so from a development standpoint, it's going to be interesting to see where we're at week 10 and who's starting then. Obviously, I think that depends a lot on how the Browns are playing with Flacco in there. But I think, obviously, across the NFL circles, I think the assumption would be the Browns would not be very good, and we'll probably be seeing one of those guys by then. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, who comes out of that fight, because I think there's going to be a rookie battle throughout the season when we get into the season. So definitely looking more positively than I kind of thought I would be with how those guys looked. But what positive is, I'm not really sure. Maybe 7 wins. I'm not really expecting too much. But with the defense they have, it does have a high ceiling if we get any sort of competent offensive play.
Yeah, for sure. Did Flacco play at all in the preseason?
No, I think the plan is for him to play a little bit in the 3rd game, to kind of get the ground running a little bit. But I wouldn't expect to see him too long, because at the end of the day, I don't think they want to start one of the rookies week 1. So yeah, I'm not sure Pickett's ready yet. So I would say that would be, my assumption at this time is he's going to play, but not very long.
Yeah. Whenever I saw the news that Joe Flacco was going to be the starter for the week 1 game against the Bengals, I was honestly very pleased by that. I saw all the hype and whatnot around Shedeur. Obviously, he played really good in his preseason game that he played in. And the Bengals defense is ass, and they seem to struggle anytime there's a quarterback that can move around, extend plays with his feet. I mean, if you just want to look up a Lamar Jackson highlight reel, basically if you just looked at any time he's played the Bengals, you could probably have a half hour worth of highlights. So I was a little nervous if it was going to be Gabriel or Sanders going in, just because of their ability to kind of extend plays with their feet and make things happen on the ground. So I personally was happy with the fact that it's Flacco, because if you can at least, I feel like, cover up his first read, Hopefully you get Trey Hendrickson signed, have some sort of pass rush. Shamar Stewart's actually had a really, really, really good training camp, so I think we're going to have something, at least some kind of production from him. I think you have a lot better chance of hitting home and getting a pass rush with Flacco back there, who's essentially going to be a statue. He's not going to be able to move around a whole lot. So from a Bengals side of things, I kind of like that Flacco was starting week 1, but then again, it is still the Bengals and their defense is horrible. So you could just turn around and hand the ball off 40 times, and that he might not even have to throw it all that much.
Yeah, and I think it's also the kind of side of rookie quarterback week 1 would probably be just as good of a matchup when you are a bad defense, because they're not exactly seeing the field, as well as a long-term guy with Flacco is. So I think it's kind of the two sides of a coin thing. Flacco not as mobile, has the experience. The other guy's more mobile, doesn't have the experience. So both kind of have their pros and cons, I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. So in other Browns
then,
news, yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. And then to kind of wrap up what's kind of been happening recently, the two guys with the assault charges, both cleared. Don't really know the actuals of those situations. We'll see what the league comes down with, if they do for either of them. But Isaiah Bond, Alabama, then Texas receiver, was probably projected to be anywhere from a 2nd to 4th round pick. Browns pretty much get him for free as he went undrafted. He signed an interesting deal, 3 years, $3 million guaranteed. I think the Browns, saw a chance to kind of get a receiver that they didn't get in the draft, and we're like, we got some Tommy Reese ties from back when he was at Alabama to kind of speak for him, and I think he'll be an interesting guy to see. Probably not week 1, but as we go along into the season. And then to the same point, Quinshon Judkins, he still remains unsigned. Just came out today. The Browns are looking around the running back market right now, seeing who's available, because they're not really sure how up to speed Judkins will be. With the 2nd round picks, the person drafted before him and after him both got fully guaranteed deals. So I think that's what he's going to be pushing for. Obviously, with his circumstances, I think the Browns are kind of fighting with, giving him guaranteed dollars at this point. But to the same point, they just signed Isaiah Bond to guaranteed money. Obviously, a lot less guaranteed money that Judkins would getting. But definitely interesting. Now the Browns have the interesting contract negotiation going on. We'll see if it gets tied up before the season. I don't think either side really benefits from having this last too long. So I think this will just kind of be a little pissing match until one side caves. And my assumption would be the old running back market report that came out today about the Browns is probably a leverage play to Judkins to say, hey, man, we're going to play this season with or without you. We can sign you at any time, but we need guys to play. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. But yeah, I think that's all I had from the Browns point.
Do you think the Quinshon thing of him not being signed, is that more so like they're literally just negotiating, or is it the Brown side of things where it's let's see what kind of comes out with everything that's going on the legal side and see what the NFL comes down with?
I think it's a little bit of both, because a part of the report on the contract negotiation was that they we're working with the NFL to get more information on, where their investigation is going to lead. Because I think that's going to kind of tell them a little bit more about where they'd want to go with it. So I think they would love to wrap it up fast, but I think it does hinder a little bit on the NFL, and whether they place suspension or what kind of punishment that would be coming his way.
What is the NFL waiting on? Or is there like any kind of timeline or anything of when they expect to get any word on what a punishment could be? I honestly haven't really followed the situation a whole lot since it all came out.
Well, I would say there isn't really anything at this point. And then the NFL isn't great with timelines, so there isn't really an end date. They kind of have all the time in the world, honestly, because they don't really care, honestly, and they what they care about is doing quote unquote diligent investigation. Um, so it it would kind of suck if it happens during the season because I think that the contract, that's when it may kind of go by the wayside a little bit, and they may wait a little bit to kind of see where it goes. So that suspension, if it doesn't have like one of those like retroactive suspensions where let's say they sign him week 4 and they're going to suspend him 6 games. The NFL has at times said, well, he didn't play the first 4 games. We'll count that as part of the suspension because that's part of the reason he didn't play those games. So he has to sit out week 5 and 6. Like I could see something like that happening. But at the end of the day, nothing's clear at all with it. So it's just kind of something we got our eyes on right now.
Yeah. And on a last note, what did you make of Dylan Gabriel's comments when he was on the sideline? He made the comments about, I can't remember his exact words, but basically, I'm here to play, not entertain. And it seemed, at least according to the internet, it seemed like a direct shot at Shador. And then afterwards, he made some like ridiculous comment where he was like, well, yeah, like I'm playing and you're an entertainer, you're a reporter, and kind of just sounded dumb as fuck, honestly. I don't know. What did you make of that?
So I was actually watching the game when it happened. So I think the context played a little bit with it. Because the reporter Aditi, she was getting after everybody about how context matters. Because I will say the video that was kind of circulating, like even Schefter, they were just putting Gabriel's comments versus they didn't have the question, and the question was kind of posed in a way about how Dylan Gabriel isn't really big in interviews and, some things like that. And he was kind of like, you guys are the entertainers, like the media side. And, I'm a competitor, so I'm still kind of getting used to this because the question was framed in a way about, doing a sideline interview, how do you feel about this or whatever. So it wasn't like, I wouldn't say that it has nothing to do with Shedeur Sanders, but I don't think he was trying to single him out either. I think it's more about like I'm not the type of guy to, be outspoken.
Yeah.
I'm just here to compete, and you guys will tell the stories. You guys will entertain as and bring the people into it or whatever. So I think they got taken out of context a little bit. I mean, I think it's one of those things for a guy not comfortable in interviews, not ideal word usage, especially with the situation and with Shadeur's personality. Like when you just cut it up to his answer, like I completely understand where people got there. Like I don't think it was a crazy reach for people to assume that. But I think the context mattered a little bit in the situation because she kind of led him into saying that in a way. And I think at the end of the day, she kind of felt bad for doing so because she didn't even realize what, I don't think she foresaw what was going to come from that. And then, you got Adam Schefter and, people all over NFL Twitter, basically saying like, hey, he's calling out Shedeur. And obviously the comments are going crazy. And yeah, so not as serious as I think it was made out to be. I would say just not great word usage and something as I mean I know he's a rookie, but he's an old rookie. Something which I mean I know college guys aren't as media available as professionals are, but a complete fuck up in terms of word utilization.
Yeah. I also think when you go to the media side of things, any and every opportunity you can take to hit the Shador button, it's going to get clicks and it's going to get engagement. So they heard that. They could kind of form a narrative in a certain way, and I think that's a little bit of definitely what they did, because anytime you tie Shador into anything, you're going to get clicks.
And then just the guys are, they're clearly pitted against each other already. And that doesn't really mean that these guys have to hate each other or whatever, but I mean, they're going to be competing for a job. They play the same position and only one guy plays it. So it's not like these guys are, going to be kissing each other's ass and anything either. So I think that's why people made the conclusions pretty quick about, he's taking a shot at him. But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think it was as on the nose as everyone made it out to be, but it is one of those things that's like, yeah, I mean, I see how people got there.
Yeah. So on to the Bengals. Obviously, everybody probably saw the preseason game from Monday night, and it was not great for the defense, as it has been all of last season and then again into this season. I think the part of this that pisses me off the most is Zach Taylor after the game. He goes into an interview and basically says, yeah, we've seen a lot of really good things that we like, or positive things that we see in practice that we think we have something here. And it's just like, Zach, shut the fuck up with this coach speak. It's fucking dog shit. It's been dog shit. It continues to be dog shit. Don't sit here and paint a fucking narrative just because you're behind a microphone and you just want to do this stupid coach speak and be positive about shit. Be upfront. That's all any fan wants, is just be transparent and yeah, it's not good. It has to get better. I would appreciate that 10 times more than you going up there and popping some propaganda type bullshit up there just about how things are better. We like what we see, yada, yada, yada. No, things are not better. It's still ass. I know that you don't have Trey Hendrickson out there. I know BJ Hill, again, just started practicing today. So you've had some pieces out there that haven't been playing. But I don't think that getting those two guys back ultimately flipped this whole thing. I think that they have some talent out there on the defense. I think the secondary is young. They have some high draft picks out there that they really need to step up this year. But ultimately, it's still going to be the thing that's been their issue forever. They can't rush the quarterback and they can't stop the run. And that's a really bad combination. And from a DB standpoint, if you're sitting out there having to guard a guy for 4 seconds, you're going to get beat every single time. And I think getting Trey Hendrickson done is like an absolute must. I don't know how you sit here and watch the first 2 preseason games and continue to just do this dumb shit that you try to do. In the famous words of Shamar Stewart when he was going through his contract shit, you're more worried about winning arguments than you are winning games. I know Shamar was dumb as hell during his whole contract negotiation. I know his agent caused a lot of problems and whatnot, but that statement is absolute facts when it comes to the Bengals and their front office. You are more worried about just trying to win the argument rather than you are realizing that you have all this talent. You have the hard part figured out in a franchise top 2 or 3 quarterback in the NFL. You have the best receiver in the NFL. You have the best number 2 at receiver in the NFL. You have a really good running back in Chase Brown. You have a lot of pieces in place. It's just take the next step and bring some of these guys in to get back to where you were a couple years ago. I know this week they had Dalton Risner that they brought in. Solid guard, obviously an upgrade from Lucas Patrick, who they've had played there, who's been absolute fucking dog shit. That dude cannot fucking play right guard for the Bengals, or Burrow's going to fucking die. The guy's terrible. But I think he made $2.4 million last year on a 1-year deal, and he's probably right around in that same range. He had a decent year last year. He's probably right around in that $2 to $3 million range, and you're sitting on $30 million in cap. You have you are still in the top half of the NFL in terms of your cap space. Just bring these fucking guys in. Stop being penny pitching, trying to fucking win these stupid arguments over nothing. Just bring these guys in and try to go make a run for it. In the end, when you're getting into the playoffs and you're going on runs that you were doing a couple years ago, nothing pays the bills more than winning. And I don't know why they can't ever get that across their head. It's frustrating as fuck. It's to the point where I'm going to be extremely frustrated whenever Burrow, Chase, and Higgins leave, because I have not much confidence that they're going to re-sign with Cincinnati. Like, why would they? It's basically those three. They carry the fucking team, and then everybody else is dog shit. Or not everybody else, but all the other units are dog shit. So they're basically a three-man wrecking crew with a whole lot of mid and ass outside of that. I don't know. It's just like the typical Bengals type shit. It's another offseason where you have contract shit going on. You had Jesse Bates, and then you had T. Higgins, and then you had Jamar, and now you have Trey. It's like, can we ever just have an offseason where it's just like normal? Like we don't have any kind of distractions in the locker room when it comes to paying guys and things like that. This is the first offseason you have Burrow healthy. Jamar's out there practicing the entire training camp. T is healthy. So you have a year where you basically have everything in place, like how you want it going into the season, and you haven't had it that way historically. There's always been some kind of bullshit, whether Burrow's hurt, Jamar's sitting out, T's hurt, whatever it is. So you're on a perfect opportunity where you can get these guys to gel and kind of hit the ground running week one. I know that they're letting the starters play a lot more in the preseason, which they haven't done in years past because they have started so slow, which I do like. I like that they're getting them out there and getting them playing, and so they're ready to go week one. But it's just like, you have one of the best pass rushers in all of football. Stop with this stupid bullshit. It sounds like the numbers are good. It's just all like guaranteed at this point. Like, pull what the Browns do. Fucking manipulate the cap. Front load it, back load it, whatever the hell you need to do. Get 91 signed and get him fucking out there. This shit is a joke, and your defense is a joke. Every time you go on TV and you put that fucking product out there, it only pisses us off even more.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny because our organizations are very flawed, but for very, very different reasons.
Yeah. Well, the Bengals have gotten really lucky that they fell into Burrow and Chase.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could probably say the same with Browns for like Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward. Like, you look at both of our teams, a lot of the best players are guys that have been drafted early on. Like,
yeah,
they weren't, some diamond in the rough guys. Like, our best players were high first round picks or high second round picks. Like, and with guys with expectations that were that good. Like, and not to say there isn't diamond in the rough guys, but I mean, the stars on our team were expected to be the stars on the team.
The Browns and the Bengals both have some of the best stars in all of the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, the Bengals have arguably the best receiver. Browns have arguably the best pass rusher. Browns probably have a top 5 cornerback. The Bengals probably have a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah.
So,
this is just life of living in Ohio. You go from talking about Ohio State, who seemingly does about everything right, to the Browns and Bengals, who just seem to just get in their own way at every single turn. So, a couple weeks left, but we'll have a big matchup week one. Browns-Bengals. Don't want it much better than that. We'll see how it comes out. I think the Bengals are favored by 5.5. I would personally smack plus 5.5. I have seen this story for the last 5 years. The Bengals suck week one. I know they've taken a little bit better of a little bit different approach to the preseason this year, what they have in years past, getting a lot of these starters to play, where they've typically have let them sit out and not even play a single snap until they get to the first game of the season. So, yeah, it'll be a good Ohio battle. I think week one, obviously, whenever it's Browns, Bengals, there's always a lot of shit talking. But, yeah, it'll be exciting. It's always fun when the Browns and Bengals play.
No doubt. I mean, it's going to be close regardless. We know that.
Yes, sir. All right, on a final note, we got college football. Football is back this weekend. We got 3 games. Kansas State, I think they're playing at noon. Is that big noon kickoff?
I don't think this is big noon kickoff because this is the Ireland game.
Yeah.
They're playing in Ireland, so I think that's ESPN.
ESPN, yeah. Because last year, Pat McAfee, they were over in Ireland, and he was live, drunk as fuck at a bar. I forgot about that. Love me some Pat McAfee.
Big fan as well.
But, yeah, Kansas State taking on Iowa State. Neutral site, obviously. Kansas State favored by 3. And then you got Fresno State taking on Kansas. Kansas is favored by 12.5. And then you have Stanford and Hawaii rounding out the nightcap with Hawaii being favored by 2.5. If you had to place a bet for all three of those games, which way you going, Norm?
So I'm looking at Kansas State, Iowa State.
You sound like you came prepared for this one.
I would. So I'm looking at Kansas State, Iowa State. Iowa State kind of has Kansas State's number. They beat them for the last 5 matchups. They're 4-0-1 against the spread in that span. And with that being said, I like Kansas State. I like Kansas State for a couple different reasons. They return about 70% of their offense, 60% of their team. Iowa State's bringing back about 65% of their offense, about 60% of their team. But with all that being said, the main guys are back. Avery Johnson's back for Kansas State. Rocco Becht is back for Iowa State. Kansas State lost DJ, can't remember. Giddens, good player for them. But Dylan
Receiver,
Edwards,
right?
He was just running back, but kind of a scat.
Well, Iowa State, they lost a couple receivers, didn't they?
Oh, they lost. Yeah, they lost Noel and Huggins, I think it was his name. Yeah. But yeah, 2 guys drafted fairly early, so they're losing some receivers. They're bringing back a good running back as well. So really, both of these teams are pretty evenly matched from a game that Iowa State won last year. Iowa State won by 3 at home. I really think this comes down to one player, and it's the guy on your graphic there. I think Avery Johnson. He is your prototypical college quarterback in terms of a roller coaster ride. But I just kind of thought last year might be the year, but I think this, and as I'm saying this, it kind of makes me think, maybe I'm just falling in love with Avery Johnson again, but he's just the complete package in terms of athleticism, good arm.
Yeah.
So I think the thing is he is a guy who just can completely take over a game. I think I also say this because I think Kansas State will be the team I pick to win the Big 12. So with all that being said, I like Kansas State -3. This game will probably come back and Kansas State wins by 1. So, I mean, I guess my favorite pick would be Kansas State money line. But I think Avery Johnson is kind of the X factor. I know Rocco Becht is a great quarterback in his own right, but I just think Avery Johnson has more firepower. And I think I'm kind of leaning Kansas State to win the Big 12. And if they're going to do that, I think winning the first game is going to be big for that.
So Avery Johnson, he came in and ran a guy named, who was their quarterback before? Will Howard out. I don't know whatever he went on and did.
That's correct. They chose this man over Will Howard.
Yeah, they ran a guy named Will Howard, a big quarterback. I don't know where he ever ended up or anything, but they chose Avery Johnson over Will Howard. Will Howard, I haven't heard from him since. But yeah, Avery Johnson, clearly an absolute dog.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was one of those things where it's like he showed some flashes the year prior.
It was the JT Barrett thing.
He was really good in his time he played. What's that?
It was the JT Barrett thing, I feel like. It was like, Will Howard's been here a really long time. Like, we just want to, like, kind of just change some shit a little bit. We have a young guy that's really talented. I think we're just ready to kind of turn things over to him.
And I think it was twofold. I think it was kind of a situation, too, where I was like, Will, now's your time to cash in your bag, too. Go somewhere big. Avery's ready. We'll be fine without you. We hope you do well. Like, I don't think it was a situation where either side was mad about that happening, because obviously, Will going to Ohio State, win a national championship, that ain't too bad itself. So,
oh, is that what he ended up doing?
He did do that.
Oh, okay. So he has done something since he left.
That's right.
So Fresno State, Kansas. I don't know. I'll also roll with Kansas State -3 for the sole reason of Avery Johnson. I don't know much else about either team other than kind of the stuff that you said, but I know Avery Johnson's a playmaker, athletic, playing the quarterback spot. So I'll take Kansas State -3. Fresno State versus Kansas minus 12.5 for the Jayhawks. Where are you going there?
So this one's a tougher one, I think. I think what I
It's a
would
big
say
spread.
I do like.
It's a big spread.
It is a big spread. What I will say is Jalen Daniels, when he plays, has Kansas humming. So I think my favorite bet in this one would probably just be the over. Gun to my head, picking a side. I think I kind of like taking the points with Fresno here, although I don't love it and probably won't take that. I'd probably take the over. But like Fresno, they've generally been a scrappy squad. They're kind of a team, that gets up for the big game. So I could see them, keeping this close, and making Kansas kind of have to work for this. Also, week 1, not a lot of teams are going to be humming at that point. So, so I could definitely see Fresno playing them well. Last year went to a bowl game, went 6-7. Wasn't anything crazy, but Fresno's generally solid, generally play well in these type of games. Kind of a upper level Mountain West team. So I can see them making it a battle, but I think the main thing with this one is I think this one's gonna be a lot of scoring, a lot of fireworks in this one. Because my key stat on this one was Kansas is bringing back 50% of their defense, so they're cycling in a lot of new guys, and their defense was kind of up and down last year to begin with. And their offense is high powered. So I think those two variables going together give me the over.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't really know which way to go on this. I think Kansas is usually a team that can score. The defense isn't always there, so I'm right there with you. I'd like the over as well. Stanford versus Hawaii, the late game. I don't think it's actually like a normal late game for Hawaii. I think it's like an 8 o'clock game. Don't quote me on that, but I think when I was looking through everything, I don't think it was a typical midnight kickoff for Hawaii. But
yeah, no,
Hawaii,
it's a 7:30 game, so I'm not sure what Hawaii time is. It's an afternoon game there.
They're probably what, 4 or 5 hours behind Eastern time. So probably like a 2:30, 3:30.
I think it's 5 or 6. Yeah, so probably about 2:30.
Okay.
So this one I think I'm keeping pretty simple, honestly. Hawaii's favored pretty much because it's at home. I think I like Stanford in this just to win outright. Stanford obviously hasn't been the Stanford of old recently. Kind of trying to find the program at this point. But the thing is as I'm looking, they're bringing back 73% of the defense. And they weren't great last year, so many would be like, what does it matter? But I think continuity on defense means a lot more than offense when you're a bad team. It's guys that know their roles, they know the scheme, they understand what's going on a lot more. From the Hawaii side, I know they're generally pretty good for a group of 5 type team, but in this case, give me Stanford. I don't think Hawaii is that much. I don't think they necessarily even compare with a Power 5 team, no matter who it is at this point. I understand the going to Hawaii factor. I think a part of it being the first game for both teams. I think the travel side of it isn't as impactful as it would be, if this was a week 5 game. So on this one, give me Stanford, and I'll be taking a money line.
Is that at Hawaii?
Yep.
Okay. So Norm's picks for the week 0 games.
Let me check if it's a neutral site actually, because that time has me questioning it.
Yeah. I would think if it's in Hawaii, it would be more like a 10 o'clock start maybe, but I could be wrong. But anyways, while Norm looks that up, Norm's picks for week 0, give him Kansas State -3, Fresno State-Kansas, take the over, and Stanford straight up on the money line.
And this game is confirmed at Hawaii.
It is in Hawaii. Okay.
But either way, I mean that's what I assumed from the beginning anyway. As I said, give me the Cardinal on the money line.
Yeah. And on the last topic before we wrap things up, what is your viewpoint of having conference games be played overseas at a neutral site?
Yeah, so this I like the Ireland game. I will say that I like the having it week 0, so they have, the week in preparation. I know last year it was a conference game too, with it being Florida State, Georgia Tech. But I personally don't love it. You take away the home field advantage from the team that, should be having the home field advantage. I'm not exactly sure if they're remedying it by having, the next game these two teams play being at Kansas State. I'm not sure what they're doing about that. But I'm kind of an old man on this one. I like my conference games. It's kind of similar to the neutral site thing we were talking about before. I like home and home, so same with conference games. I like them being played in the stadium, the atmosphere. Not to say Ireland won't be crazy, but it'll be crazy in a different way. So for that type of thing, give me a non-conference game.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something contract related where ESPN has, the conference rights, and it's easier for them to send a conference game out there than a non. But, not to dive into logistics, personally, would prefer this game would be playing at Bill Snyder Stadium.
Yeah. I'm with you there. I think if you have a cross-conference game of a Power 4 schools and you want to play those at a neutral site across seas in another country, I think that's cool. I think that's pretty fun to watch and whatnot. But yeah, if it's a conference game, part of playing conference games is having the benefit of having the home field advantage. So you kind of lose that a little bit. Obviously, you have the travel time and everything like that just to get basically on the other side of the world to play a football game. So it'll be interesting, but nonetheless, football is back, and we got 3 big games this weekend. And I really like the Kansas State, Iowa State being kind of like the headliner. Two solid teams that I think are still going to draw a good amount of viewership from fans. I think you're going to have a lot of people watching, obviously, with football being back, with it being a conference game, things like that. So I'm excited. Football's back, and we are here.
Yeah, and 2 last fun facts, because, I'm really trying to argue for Stanford here. Their interim coach is Frank Reich.
Really?
The old Colts coach. Colts
coach, yeah.
Because Andrew Luck, he's GM in the business now as well. So I think he's having Reich take care of it for like a year until they kind of figure some stuff out. And, I think Frank Reich's a solid coach, especially at the college level. I know the game's different, but I think he'll be able to scheme against Hawaii when he's been scheming against the Tennessee Titans for years. So,
out of those 3 bets, which one is your favorite?
Honestly, I think it's Stanford money line. I think the more I'm, looking into it, the more I'm reading about Stanford. I think they're going to be on the rise. I think I love Andrew Luck being a part of the program again. And I think he's not just a football player. I think he's a football knower, and I think he knows a lot about the game. And I think he has a great ability for finding people with similar mindsets and the ability to, find guys who can play ball. And I think at Stanford, you have, a decent ability to get guys like that. So, I think I see that as my favorite. I know it's plus odds, so the plus sign never hurts, but I think that's my favorite this week.
Hell yeah. Heard it here first, right here on the middle ground. Norm's going Kansas State -3, Fresno State, Kansas over, and the whale play of the week, Stanford money line. Football is back, baby. All right, Norm, you want to wrap things up? You got any final words, any final comments before we get on out of here?
No, sir. I'll be on the couch this weekend. That's all I know. And maybe the next 20 weeks, something like that.
Yep. We'll be here. We'll be coming in with Norm's picks every single week, so you'll get them right here live in action on the Middle Ground. So thank you, everybody, for listening. If you could please drop a like, subscribe, retweet, do all the things that help make our show grow. We would greatly appreciate it. But aside from that, another great show. Thank you, Norm, for coming on the Ohio version of the Middle Ground. With that being said, Middle Ground out.